Welcome to episode 38 of the Cohesive Home Podcast. I'm Melissa, one of your hosts, and I'm joined by Kate. Today is actually a really special episode because we've teamed up with some of our favorite podcasters to all talk about the value of online community. We're really excited to share more about the other podcasts and hear their unique takes on our shared topic.
We feel so lucky to be supported by other podcasters and to be in community with them. So before we jump into the topic today, we wanted to share just a little bit about each of them. What I love about all of these podcasts is that they're made up of two totally relatable female hosts who happen to also be good friends.
Just like us.
Exactly. You know, the very first podcasting friend we made was Kelsey Wharton of The Girl Next Door. Kelsey had actually reached out to us when we were brand new podcasting babies, and she was so incredibly kind and encouraging. She and her former neighbor, Erica, have such real conversations on their podcast about creativity, living intentionally, and raising a family.
And what I love is that they both talk about the cocktail of the week. And I always really enjoy that because, well, I like to drink. So, but also the fact that they, I don't know, I prefer wine.
Just a smidge.
But, it reminds me of us. They're two former neighbors connecting over the microphone.
Yeah, you know I miss you, girl.
I got you, boo. All right, yeah. So speaking of podcasters that I kind of want to be like, there's a podcast called 25% Friends, which is hosted by Sarah and Kim, and they actually both just got yoga certification, and I'm kind of jealous, actually, about that.
Yes, me too. That has always been a long time dream of mine to be a yoga instructor.
I know.
Hasn't happened yet.
No, I don't know.
Fit it in.
I'm not zen enough, I don't think.
Right? Oh, it'd be so cool. Yeah, I think I obviously do love doing yoga, but I think I just love like the idea of it.
Yeah.
Of being a teacher and not so much like the actual getting the certification.
Right.
But I do love how their podcast covers such a wide gamut of topics, and it's just so fun to listen to. I just also really appreciate how they talk openly about their differences, but they're always able to find common ground and still have a friendship over it.
Yeah, I think that's really important within friendships, is to be able to see those differences and still like work through them and maybe agree to disagree. But speaking of new friends, though, I actually just connected with Sarah Copper of the Friendlier podcast, and she hosts that with her friend Abby. And one of the main things that they do on their podcast is they do book reviews. They also chat just about stuff that's inspiring them and all of those things. But I find a lot of inspiration from those two ladies because they really kind of dive a little deeper into certain topics. Like my favorite one is probably about their social media use. I really enjoyed that episode. So check them out for sure.
Yes, me too. I love that. And we actually have an interview coming out soon with Sarah, which we think that you all will love. And I also actually wanted to give an honorable mention to Sarah and her husband. They have a new podcast called Family Pedals, which is all about living a car-free life.
Yes, and I really enjoyed interviewing her, so keep an eye out for that next month.
So cool.
Yeah. And so the final podcast in our lineup is one after our own hearts, and it's called Minimalist Moms Podcast.
Except, I think that they are probably more minimalist than us. We're so lazy at it.
I know. Yeah. I love how both Megan and Diane, they have a really straightforward and relatable approach to giving advice on minimizing and just tips for household clutter and all of those things. So even though that, both of us have been practicing minimalism for years, I still get really inspired by all of their ideas.
I totally agree. So we want to encourage you all to add these podcasts to your listening lineup, and we will include links to all of these lovely ladies and their podcasts in the show notes. So now on with our show.
So today's topic is on community, and specifically the idea of choosing community and abundance over competition and scarcity. But let us explain a bit more what we mean.
Whether you have a business or are simply trying to make friends in the digital age, you may come across a certain mindset that is based on scarcity. In a nutshell, the thinking is that if someone else is experiencing success, that they are taking part of your share, and therefore you cannot both be successful at the same time.
So an example would be thinking that we should be the only podcast with two moms talking about living simply and intentionally because we're scared that we won't have enough listeners if someone else is talking about it.
Could you imagine if that was actually our perspective?
No.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be fun.
So instead, we believe that there is an abundance of good things out there, and we want success for others in our community. You know, good friends of ours who podcast at The Muse and the Catalyst, Megan and Aaron Schiller, they actually talk often about the idea of creative families and individuals rising together by supporting one another. And I love that.
Yes, I do too. And it also feels really good to help another person or friend that's trying to do the same thing. For example, one of our amazing listeners, Erin of awelderswife.com, she has been incredibly supportive of our podcast through Instagram and just leaving comments and all of those things. She is actually thinking about starting a minimalism podcast with a friend. And so she contacted us and I had a Skype session with her. We chatted. And I really, truly enjoyed just giving advice and encouragement. And I'm very hopeful that my helping her will help her succeed in doing this with her friend. I want to see her success.
I agree with you. I love Erin, and I'm really excited about her putting out a podcast. But it is so disheartening to see others operating under the scarcity model for success. I really feel that it just reflects this, like underlying fear of seeing others as competition, or that they're somehow going to hurt your business or your plans by simply existing in their own sphere.
I know. It's super annoying. And I mean,
we'll put it that way.
It's so annoying. But really, it's like, why? I mean, there are 3.2 billion people using the internet. And I mean, let's talk about it. Instagram has was like 700 million users. I mean, believe me, people, if you're trying to build a community or a brand, there are plenty of people out there to connect with. So we encourage you to choose to find community rather than focus on competition. Doing that will pay dividends of goodness in the future.
So if you're listening and thinking, well, I don't have a business, a podcast, a fancy Instagram, or fill in the blank, what does this mean for me? Well, we're going to focus the second half of this episode talking about creating community online, since our last Q&A covered face-to-face community building. And since it's what we're most familiar with, we're going to talk specifically about Instagram. But know that these ideas are relevant on whatever social media platform you use, or even just when building community in real life. Because, that's important too.
IRL. Sorry. Hashtag IRL.
YOLO. So when I first started on Instagram several years ago, I was so interested in connecting with other families that were traveling. That was what was most relevant to me. And so we advise you to look for a kind of a niche, like what are you most interested in? What topics engage you when you're searching through social media? And then connect with those people and those ideas.
So, for example, you can search for hashtags, as many of you probably already know, but those hashtags will help you connect with other like-minded people. One tip I kind of have about that is maybe go to a larger account that, the engagement with larger accounts, like say somebody who has thousands and thousands of followers, they're not probably going to engage with you. They've got too much going on and their account is solely to promote at that point. Let's just be honest. So find from them, typically they will use some really good hashtags. You can go to those larger accounts, search the hashtags, go through, find other small accounts, people such as yourself that are searching for that community and might like, the topic in which that hashtag is about. So that's one way to kind of connect with other like-minded people within a community in an easy way. So in your niche, I don't know.
Yeah.
niche.
Whatever. But no, that is such good advice. And I am really just so glad you said that, because that kind of goes into our next point, which is to be genuine. Yeah. When you're using Instagram, use it as a form of community. Don't view others as simply another follower to obtain. That's such a dated and competition-based model.
It was so 2016.
OMG,
Sorry.
girl. But seriously, I mean, do what you want with your Instagram, but,
right.
Consider following someone because you're just genuinely interested in them. Mm-hmm. You like their story. You want to learn more about them as a person. The whole model of building Instagram solely to have high follower numbers is like trying to be the popular girl in high school.
Yeah. Nobody wants to revisit high school either. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Definitely not. So similar to high school, find the people that are genuine and real and connect with them.
Side note, I just threw away my high school yearbook the other day. Decluttering.
You did?
Yep, decluttering.
Oh, that's so sad.
No, it's not. I
But
literally do not care.
What if when you're in your 50s, you want to look back and see all the people that signed and said, see you next year.
Yeah, nope.
You are great, Melissa.
Nope.
What were some of the...
Nope.
I'm trying to remember some of the things that people
I signed your crack. That one.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, my goodness.
I was decluttering all my photos and stuff, and I got rid of so many. It was awesome. And downsized them all into these little boxes and got rid of my yearbook. So definitely don't want to go back to high school, and pretty excited that it's gone.
Yes. Okay, so some of you may know that I teach online, and this point is something that I really hammer home in my online classes, is to treat others how you want to be treated when you are communicating online. So don't say anything that you wouldn't say to someone's face.
Word. Preach it.
Right.
What? That's such good advice, because so many people hide behind the shroud of their phones or their laptops, and it's so annoying. But yeah, treat somebody the way you want to be treated face to face.
Yeah, well, yeah, so how do you listen when you're typing with your fingers, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, so one of the things I love to do is just try and start conversations in the comments. So if someone comments on my photo, I will write back and be like, hey, how's your day going? What's your week look like? Have you started this or that? And I've actually formed online friendships with people just simply by doing that.
You are very, very good at that. I find it to be slightly overwhelming sometimes for me to do that. So if my advice with that would be to not do it with everyone. It's kind of like finding, how we talked about in our last podcast with the Q&A, find that one person that you're like, they seem cool. I think based on their Instagram, like they seem like somebody that would, I cannot talk today apparently. They seem like somebody who would share my values and share things that I like to do. And so try and focus on that one person and be genuine in your responses and your communication with that person, just like you would if you were in the room with them.
Okay, well, and along those lines, our next point has to do with just thinking about doing nice things for others without expecting anything in return. So Instagram has created this culture of, I'll do this for you if you reward me with money or stuff or following me or whatever it is that's desired. But what if you helped others out simply because you believe in what they're doing?
Right. Because, I mean, there are people who use social media as a tool to make money or to leverage influence and popularity. But, and we're not saying those are bad things, but innately, Instagram should be a tool to connect and help you communicate with people. It has really, with ads and all of these things, the influencer type network has really sort of taken over. And that can be overwhelming. But if you do these other steps that we're talking about and try and create genuine relationship with people, those other things sort of fade into the back, in my opinion.
Yes. Like, what if we just created this total counterculture within Instagram, right? Where it is based on real community and friendships and just caring for other people and believing in them.
You mean what Instagram used to be?
Oh,
burn Instagram before it was sold out to Facebook. Thanks a
For
lot.
real.
Thanks a lot,
Oh
Facebook.
my gosh.
Destroy everything.
I know, right? But that's the thing, is that online community can be just as beautiful and encouraging and thoughtful as face-to-face friendships. And so we want to just encourage you to choose community over competition, to help others and believe in who they truly are as individuals, and just to be a beacon of inspiration and hope to others online.
Right, because there's so much negativity and materialism in the world. Let's cultivate online relationships that intentionally choose a different but happier path of community and mutual support.
Amen. So go check out our very good podcasting friends. We think that you will love them. And they are the Girl Next Door, Minimalist Moms, Friendlier, and 25% Friends podcasts. We think you will love them just as much as we do.
Thanks so much for listening today, and we will see you next time.